Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site, bettingangle.us, a free site. It is January 19th, 2023. Let's talk NFC playoffs, NFL. But first, remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, let's be clear here up top. Right? The San Francisco 49ers at home against the Dallas Cowboys. That game is unbettable. Right? If you're looking for an edge, if you're looking for experience, if you're looking for teams that are familiar with each other, you're much better off betting on the Philadelphia Eagles on a money line over the Giants. Right? I think Philly has a distinct edge on the Giants, and I'm a Giants fan. But Philly has played the Giants twice already this year. Philly is the rested team. The Giants just had to play in Minnesota. Inspirational win, right? This next game is going to be in Philly. Philly is the 1 seed. Philly has a lot to prove. Jalen Hurts is supposed to be back for the game. I like Philadelphia. If I'm looking for an edge on the casino, if my purpose in betting is to have an edge on the casino, in my opinion, that's the game to go for. Now let's talk about this game. You know, Brock Purdy is a rookie quarterback. Just keep that in mind. A lot of eyes are going to be on Brock Purdy. So this game, ironically, while it's unbettable as to a side, offers you compelling leverage. If you're looking for leverage, let me just make 3 suggestions here. You're going to get great leverage on all of them if the Cowboys or San Francisco can just get to the Super Bowl. Then you can hedge out. Then you can take the other side. You can read the room. You can do what you want to do. But understand right now, they're offering you Dak Prescott at greater than 11-1 to be Super Bowl MVP. Right? Greater than 11-1. They're also offering you Brock Purdy at greater than 8-1 to be Super Bowl MVP. Understand the winner of this game is in football's Final Four. The winner of this game plays in the NFC Championship game. They would be 1 game away from playing in the Super Bowl. Understand, Brock Purdy at greater than 8-1 to win Super Bowl MVP are vastly superior odds, and I mean vastly superior odds, than you would get picking the Niners to win the Super Bowl, if you believe they do. Right? You're getting better than twice those odds by instead taking their quarterback. And let me let you in on a secret. While the Niners are loaded, right? George Kittle is probably the second best tight end in football. Nick Bosa probably wins Defensive Player of the Year. Deebo Samuel, it is very hard to find that combination of wide receiver and running back. Folks, he's a skilled running back. When he runs the football, he waits for blocks to form. He's like Tony Dorsett. And of course, you have Ayuk, one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league. Not to mention, of course, Christian McCaffrey, who can take over a game. Right? The Niners are loaded. But we have to make a tough call here, I believe, since no rookie quarterback, none, has led their team to a Super Bowl victory. And because that's what's going to be talked about. The fact that Brock Purdy is not only San Francisco's third-string quarterback. Let's remember, they start the season with Trey Lance. They go to Jimmy Garoppolo. This is their third-string quarterback. But he's also Mr. Irrelevant. Think about it. The NFL draft is already compelling. Diehards are there the first day of the draft to see the first round. Many of them, diehards who have traveled to the draft location, stick around to see the last guy of the last round picked. That's who Brock Purdy is. The narrative is compelling. I don't believe the Niners can win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy his first year, right? Purdy is an above-average NFL quarterback. He did start as a freshman in college. He's talented. He's just inexperienced. I personally believe at the quarterback position, there is no substitute for experience. So I don't believe the Niners can win the Super Bowl. But if I had to bet on this game, I would take Dak Prescott 11-1 for Super Bowl MVP, and Dallas is loaded. Right? I would take Dak Prescott. The public knows him. Understand, Dak is loved to the point where he's in commercials with Real Housewives. Right? You know Dak. The consensus on Dak, who at times is interception prone, threw a lot of picks this year. But the consensus on Dak is he's a nice guy, learning his craft. Right? Isn't that the consensus on him? That's the kind of guy you give a Super Bowl MVP to if his team wins. Right? I believe Philly would be vulnerable against both of these teams. I believe Brock Purdy wins the MVP if the Niners win the Super Bowl. So here, in this game, as just a self-contained game, I feel it's unbettable. So I'm just going to grab leverage in the game. Right? Understand, you're never going to get a plus 1100 or a greater than plus 800 on Dak and Brock Purdy ever again. Right after this game, when the winner is in the NFC Championship game, those betting spreads are going to collapse. So if you're going to grab leverage here, take both. Understand, one of their teams necessarily has to win this game. Now let's talk about the game. And let me just say this. There are two themes here. You need to understand how important they are. In the 1980s, and yes, it matters, right? I'm in a fantasy football pool here in the Bay Area, and I've heard about this from others in talking about the game. There's a backstory here. The start of the Niner dynasty, the Bill Walsh and Joe Montana 1980s NFL Roman Empire, was a playoff game at home in 1982 between the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys. Right? One play. Out here, it's simply called the catch. Is a play every Niner fan 50 and under knows about. Montana to Dwight Clark, touchdown. Right? People forget that year the Niners were the 1 seed in the NFC. If you hear a Niner fan talk about the catch, right, all you're going to hear about is how the underdog Niners, stood up to the Cowboys, and Joe Montana, while going out of bounds, threw a miracle pass to Dwight Clark. Right? Understand how big the catch was. Dwight Clark became a 49er personality out here. He even opened a restaurant. No one also remembers what happened after that play. Dallas actually starting to make a comeback before the game ended. I'm telling you, Niner fans, of all the teams in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys hold a special place for Niner fans. They're amped up on the game. Maybe the younger generation thinks in terms of Steve Young, Jeff Garcia, right? Garoppolo, Purdy. I'm telling you, the older generation, the Montana generation, remembers the catch took place against the Cowboys. That's a big part of the mythology. Now, on the Dallas side, this is part of a revenge tour. Right now, understand, Dallas had the Troy Aikman triplet era, right? We literally call them triplets. Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman. Then, of course, they topped themselves. Into their Super Bowl run, they added a guy we now call Coach Prime. Right? The Cowboys moved on from the catch game. But understand, the Cowboys looked good last year. They were playing in Dallas in the playoffs. And the team they lost to, and the way they lost, had to hurt the psyche. The team they lost to were Jimmy Garoppolo's San Francisco 49ers. Right? So this is payback. Now, from the Niners side, just realize you have a rookie quarterback. I know he's been looking spectacular, folks. I listened to VSiN, great station, a numbers game. Gil Alexander, he's spectacular. Right? He spent some time in the Bay Area, by the way. And Gil Alexander always jokes about people expecting a car crash involving Brock Purdy one game. That there's going to be a game where Brock Purdy comes in and throws picks, looks like a rookie. Folks, I'm one of those people. Right, let's be clear here. You always hear this time it's different. Right, I'm hearing about the coaching greatness of Kyle Shanahan. I'm hearing about how Brock Purdy, was recruited by Nick Saban. And when Saban started criticizing Purdy's accuracy, Purdy thought to himself, this guy doesn't know football. Because the one thing I know is I'm accurate. You're hearing all kind of backstories. Be careful when you say the words, this time it's different. Brock Purdy has never gone up against the level of defense he's about to go up against. Understand who the Cowboys just beat in possibly his last game. Tom Brady. Right? Think about that. They just beat Tom Brady. Got news for you. Tom Brady had a Hall of Fame wide receiver on the field. Mike Evans. You also had Chris Godwin. You had Cameron Brate. He had weapons on the field. The Dallas defense took over in the first half when the game mattered. Didn't they? That game wasn't even as close as the final score because Dallas's kicker had some problems hitting extra points. Now I know the Niners have Christian McCaffrey, who's better than any back on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. But if you're a Niner fan and you just saw them beat Tom Brady, who ironically is from Bay Area, Sarah High School, Barry Bonds' high school, Lynn Swan's high school, right? The high school has a Hall of Fame pedigree. Tom's just another chapter in that book. Well, let's just understand. This Cowboy defense just beat Brady. Now they're in against Brock Purdy. I know Purdy looked great against Seattle. Let's be real here. The NFC West was not what we expected. Right? The Rams did not make the playoffs. Arizona did so poorly that their coach got fired. Seattle had to win that last week to make the playoffs. Right? So understand, Brock Purdy, yes, he's done some good things, but he's a rookie. Dallas is out for revenge. Dallas just beat a guy who's in the conversation as being the greatest of all time at quarterback. Right? Let's talk about the Cowboys side of the ledger, because the Cowboys have problems. Before you look at the team, please look at the situation. Right? Now, I think the Cowboys would win on a neutral field. They're not on a neutral field. They're playing in San Francisco, where San Francisco, over their last 10 games, is 8-2 against the spread. 8-2 against the spread, folks. Also, this is the Cowboys' 4th straight road game. 4th straight road game. And understand, it comes after a cross-country trip across several time zones from Tampa Bay. So hardcore gambling types would look at the situation and say, this is a bad situation for Dallas. that would be the analysis. Before you even look at the game, you hear 4th straight road game, cross-country trip. This is bad. Even fans on the Dallas side of the ledger believe this is a competitive game. When your kicker is having problems hitting extra points, how can he be relied upon 1 week later to hit long field goals? Now, I know Dallas went out and signed another kicker. Wow, that's uncertainty, isn't it? So the kicking game, let's use a word that should give people pause. The kicking game is unsettled. Folks, that's a big part of a team's attack. Right? Things change defensively. If I know you're on my 40-yard line and you don't have a Justin Tucker, there's no chance of you kicking a field goal. Right? My defense is going to be different. Sunday should be a sunny day in the mid-50s in Santa Clara. The real issue this Sunday is going to be the wind. Right? Understand, I believe the defenses are going to take over. This is my own personal bias. When I see games like this, right? 2 of the league's best defenses. Rookie quarterback on one side, shaky kicking situation on the other side. Right? A starting quarterback who has had moments where he's thrown a lot of picks. Right? In a game like this, I'm expecting this game to be decided by turnovers. I'm expecting the defense to make plays. I believe the team with the fewer turnovers wins. I don't have the visibility on this game to pick a side. Right? I see the point spread. Understand, the 3.5 points seems odd to me. Right? Because if you buy the hype on the Brock Purdy run, if you buy the hype of the second half of the Seahawks game, looking at the Cowboys situation, bunch of road games, you would think, wow, not only that, recent loss to the Commanders, right? Just 2 games ago, team that did not make the playoffs. You would look at that and you would install San Francisco at much higher than 3.5 points. Right? If I take away 3 points for the home field advantage, the 3.5 implies that this is a jump ball between two evenly matched teams, which, quite frankly, is what it is. Right? One would have thought the line would have been higher. So just understand, I'm expecting the game to be decided by turnovers, interceptions, fumbles. I think the game's unbettable in terms of a side. Let's just talk about what to expect. You already have how I would play the game gambling-wise, right? Let's add another gambling play. We're just trying to get leverage here, right? We're just trying to get better odds than are being offered. Believe it or not, the casinos have a prop. It's which two teams are going to play in the NFC Championship game. Now, I believe Philly beats the Giants. The prop they're offering is Philly versus the Dallas Cowboys. And they're giving you a plus 248 as I make this video. Plus 248, folks, that's better than Dallas on a money line for the San Francisco 49er game. Right now, earlier I told people, hey, one of the props I liked was to take the NFC East prop. Wow, did that prop over deliver? Right? You have 3 teams from the NFC East still alive among the final 4 in the NFC. Well, just understand, if Philly beats the Giants, were the Cowboys to win here, you would win that prop before the first snap of an NFC Championship game between Philly and Dallas. So again, just look at this game as a game that's uncertain, where you can't pick a side, and you just want to use it to grab leverage. With regard to casual fans watching this video, for the Cowboys to win this game, they need to realize that Niner receivers are great after the catch. There's an NFL stat, yards after the catch. The Niners excel at that. Now you couple that with Brock Purdy's short to midterm accuracy. Extremely accurate short to midterm. What the Cowboys have to do is to lock in on Niner receivers early. Can't give them space off the line of scrimmage. They have to lock in early and prevent Niner receivers from getting into their routes. Right? This isn't a team that you can sit back and play a loose defense on. You have to be up on them. Understand, the reason Brock Purdy wasn't picked in the first round, wasn't picked in the first day of the draft, wasn't picked the first, 90% of the last round of the draft. It's because Brock Purdy doesn't have the arm strength of a Pat Mahomes or a Josh Allen. Right? You're dealing with an accurate quarterback, but not a strong-arm deep thrower. So the Cowboys are going to have to gamble. They're going to have to cover the receiver short, dare him to go long, and hope that when he goes long, he's off target. Understand, too, Brock Purdy played a great second half of football against Seattle. I want people to look hard at the first half of that game. Folks, he was not on his A game. Now, if you believe the pressure got to Brock Purdy last week in the first round of the playoffs, imagine how amped up the pressure is going to be now when he's up against Micah Parsons. A hardcore pass rush. Added pressure. 49er fans who want to believe that he is the second coming of Joe Montana. Let me tell you, I've spoken to Niner fans, and we start talking about Brock Purdy, and invariably, I mean, you can almost set your clock to it. invariably, about the third paragraph into the conversation, Joe Montana's name comes up. Right now understand, by normal draft standards, Montana, who was picked in the third round, was picked far ahead of Brock Purdy, who's the last pick of the last round. Understand, too, Montana, people forget this. For his day, Montana was a running quarterback early in his career. Montana could read defenses with the best of them, but Montana would also put the ball down, start running, and he was one of the better athletes at quarterback. By contrast, Brock Purdy is more like Tom Brady. Right? Dallas's defense has a lot of team speed. Right? Brock Purdy really doesn't have the option that a Daniel Jones would have or a Jalen Hurts would have. Right? As I've said, the Cowboys will be the best defense first year Brock Purdy has faced. Now, let me also say this too. The Cowboys need to focus on stopping George Kittle. Right? You need to stop Deebo Samuel on slants. You need to stop George Kittle, period. Because Brock Purdy loves George Kittle like Pat Mahomes loves Travis Kelce. Right? For the Niners to win, and understand, the Niners, very physical team on defense. I mentioned Nick Bosa earlier, right? You're going to have to find a way to double team Nick Bosa, or Dak Prescott is going to be under pressure. The problem with Dak is he's either the quarterback you saw last week against Tampa Bay, Pro Bowl level, multiple touchdowns. He's even a better athlete than you think. He ran for a touchdown last week. Right? He's either that Pro Bowler, or he's a guy who throws some baffling interceptions. What the Niners have to do is to rough up Dak to the point where he gets gun shy. They're going to have to hit him early, get him off his game, have him revert to the guy who threw too many picks this year. Right? So, Dallas on the road against the spread is 5-4. Now that's not as impressive as 8-2 at home against the spread, which the Niners are. But understand, when you're above 500 on the road against the spread, that's not bad. Right? That's not bad. The other thing too is, if you look at Dallas's offense, they have several games where they have 23 or more first downs. Right? I know the Niners have been on a run of late. Keep in mind, the Niners not only started Brock Purdy during the season out of necessity, but they picked up Christian McCaffrey during the season. Right? I would argue that they don't have, even today, the offensive firepower that the Dallas Cowboys have. Right? The Cowboys have a wealth of wide receivers. The Cowboys have multiple options at running back. Tony Pollard, in my opinion, and this is heresy here in the Bay Area, might be able to offset Stanford man Christian McCaffrey. Pollard, underrated. Right? And of course, the Cowboys have Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not saying Zeke is still in his prime, but what I am saying is look at his touchdowns. Zeke makes the Cowboys extremely efficient in the red zone. So this is going to be a very high-level game. I'm not going to take a side. I'm going to check it out, and instead I'm just going to use it to grab leverage. While I feel the Cowboys win on a neutral field with proper rest, I concede they're not on a neutral field, and I don't like the idea of this being their fourth road game in a row, and it comes after a cross-country trip. So rather than bet on the game, I'm taking Dak plus better than 11-1 to be Super Bowl MVP. I'm taking Brock Purdy better than 8-1 to be Super Bowl MVP. I even put a little bit on Philly versus Dallas as the two teams to meet in the NFC Championship game, simply because, to me, Philly beats the Giants, and the plus 248 is better than you can get on Dallas on a money line on this game. So that's how I'm playing it. In the comment section of this YouTube video, you tell us how you're playing it. Give us the narrative on how you think the game plays out. But what I want people to realize is that the Seattle Seahawks were very much, and I mean very much, in their game against the Niners at halftime. That's the last game the Niners played. They played it at home. Right? It was in the second half. And you didn't have that much rain and stuff like that for the game. It was in the second half that the Niners asserted themselves. Which team is going to show up for the Niners this week? The first half team from last week's game, or the second half team from last week's game? Right? If turnovers start happening, the team with the fewer turnovers is going to win this game, given the defensive playmakers on both teams. That's how I see the game playing out. Right? Defense is going to be what wins this game. I'm not expecting a flat-out offensive shootout. I'm expecting both quarterbacks to face challenges. I'll go with the guy who's been to a Pro Bowl in terms of which quarterback I'd prefer for a game like this. I have a strong preference for Dak Prescott over Brock Purdy, who right now looks bulletproof. But understand, rookies have problems in the playoffs. Brock Purdy has had exactly one good half of football in these playoffs. Right? So, game's too dangerous to take a side. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this video. Let me say this too. Should the Cowboys win this game, understand, their game against Philly is interesting. Because while I think the Cowboys are the better team, with rest on a neutral field, that would be their fifth game on the road. Right? Fifth game in a row on the road. And of course, it would be after playing the Niners, right? Teams have a terrible record the week following playing the Niners, and that would also be after yet another 3,000-mile trip across country. Just food for thought. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I look forward to your comments. Thanks for stopping by.